And without further ado here, before he comes on, before you bring him up, I got to tell you this one story here. So Butch used to have, I don't know if Drew was around as a kid, but him and Tammy used to have, like, the position coaches used to have us out at these barbecues. And Butch would have, like, food out, sodas and whatever, right? And he had this canal in the back. And this canal's out there. Me, Stubbs, Jerome, were sitting in the back. And I swear to God, I don't know if Drew was here yet, but Tammy, his wife, God love her so much. She was always great to us. So we're eating food and such, and everyone goes swimming in this ravine here that Butch had. You know, they have these locks and stuff. And so we had Jimmy Jones, who played for the Cowboys. So Jimmy's out there, and we're sitting there eating. And Jerome's like, you think he can swim? I'm like this, and I'm like, what do you mean? We're all looking at him. Jimmy Jones is drowning right behind Butch's house. We're sitting there going, this guy's going down. This guy would end up taking my spot because I ended up going to the NFL. But Jimmy, it was like from what was that? Opelika or something like that? Okeechobee, because Butch used to always go, here he is, the king of Okeechobee. And this guy used to just, we saved the guy's life out back of Butch Davis's house. Now, guys, I'm going to bring him in here, and I got to say this to you. Sean Taylor, Ray Lewis, Russell Maryland. He is easily one of the greatest recruiters in the history of college football and put more guys in pro football. He's my former coach. He owns 3 Super Bowl rings and a national championship ring. Built the 2000, 2001, and 2 Miami Hurricane football teams that put all those guys in the pros. How you doing, Coach?
I'm doing great, Dan. It's absolutely awesome to be with you. And I love the story about Jimmy Jones almost drowned in the water, and people had to jump in the water to save his life and stuff. That's an amazing story.
Oh my God. You know, Butch, one of the things that I like, Coach, so much that we used to do, and, you know, I say this to everyone, and I look back on it, Coach, one of the things that I took for granted was how great you guys were. I know we had a super collection of players, but I remember seeing Joe Paterno or Barry Switzer or Lou Holtz all watching us, and all them coaches always coming up going, how do these guys get you guys to practice so hard? I'm like, I got Cortez Kennedy and Russell Maryland behind me. It ain't that hard.
That's the truth. But you know what, Dan? I mean, obviously, one of the things that made the University of Miami teams and stuff awesome was how much they loved to compete. And all of them, I mean, the practices, and with Jimmy as being the head coach and stuff, I mean, we worked hard in practices, and the game on Saturday was easier than a lot of the practices that we had against each other. And they just loved to compete, the offense, the defense, the special teams, and just that group of guys you just lived and talked about, you know, some of the guys that were there. They are awesome guys. They love to practice, and they love to win, and they absolutely love their teammates.
Coach, you've been away from the game a little bit, and you're a lifer. You're probably doing some consultant stuff for people and dabbling in on some stuff here, but do you miss it? I mean, college football is way different now. You know, they didn't have nil back then because now it means now it's legal. So, I mean, that's what nil means to me now, but do you miss it?
Yeah, I do. A certain aspect of it, Dan. I mean, one of the things, obviously, my son is a quarterback coach. He was the wide receivers and tight ends at St. Thomas University in Miami, and they're climbing the ladder. They've only been playing for 5 years, but they got a chance last year. They got into playoffs and NAIA, and maybe they got a chance to win the champion. But you know this, there's a litany, a lot of guys that played for me. I was blessed, and you want to talk about a coach that's lucky. You're never good unless you have good players. But I had 38 first-round firster, and I had 135 other guys that made it to the NFL. And here's the thing that's crazy about it is they're all coaching now in the NFL or in college. And Damian Lewis, he just took a new job at the University of Colorado to be the defensive line guys. And TJ Yates is the wide receiver coach at the Atlanta Falcons. And we got guys, you know, Ken Dorsey that was the quarterback for us at the University of Miami. And now he's the offensive coordinator for the Cleveland Browns. And so, you know, I love watching them, and any way that I can try to help them with their program and in recruiting. And, you know, they'll call every now and then and they'll say, you know, if we're going to draft this guy, what do we got to try to do and stuff. And one of the guys that was a great offensive line coach for us was Sam Pittman, and he's the head coach at the University of Arkansas. And we go and talk to him, and really, I truly try to help any of the guys that played for me to have really good teams and to try to win.
Coach, was Clint hurt after you or before you?
No,
he's now the D-line coach with the Steelers, or with the Eagles. I'm sorry.
You know what? It's a crazy story, Dan. I mean, we recruited him. His father was a police officer in New York City, and he moved out of New York City. And I tried to get Clint to come to University of Miami, and his dad said, "There's no way my son is ever going to be in Miami. There's too much criminal. There's too much this, that, and the other." And I literally met him at a diner, and we talked for about 4 or 5 hours about the University of Miami, the education, how good the teams are, and the quality of the guys, yourself and all the guys that we had, the Jerome Browns and all those guys, the quality of how they were. And his dad said, "You know what? I'll let my son to go there." And then obviously he came, and he was a great guy. He got hurt, but now he's into coaching and stuff, and he's just an awesome guy.
Yeah, now he's got Jordan Davis, and he's got Jalen Carter now in Philadelphia. And yeah, no, I actually got a call from him, and he goes, because, Coach, there used to be a big deal back in the day when guys would wear numbers. He goes, "Sills, I'm going to wear 93. And I'm like, "Hey, I think it's a great honor that you would ask," and all that. So
let's see. How about 93 here? We got 93. This is just for you,
I like it, Coach. I like it. So that's great that you have.
I thought you were going to be here for practice today, and I was going to put you in the 93,
I love it, Coach, very much so, man. Hey, Coach, let me ask you about Vic Fangio. Dave Wannstedt said this about Vic Fangio, and I don't know what your history is with Vic, but Dave has got a history with him, and said, schemes don't win titles. He says ball players, Jimmys and Joes, win titles. It's not going to be the scheme of a guy who's been in the NFL for this long. It's been over 40 years, like 4 decades he's been coaching. It comes down to the players. And today's NFL is different, Coach. It's more control and contain than it is getting pressure and being big hit guys. How do you look at a style like Vic Fangio? He's probably going to run that 52, Coach.
Yeah, you know what, though, Dan? I absolutely believe with the idea that championship teams, and I don't care whether it's high school, I don't care if it's college or in the NFL, it's about the character, the work ethic. You can, whether you're 4 wide receivers or 3 tight ends, it doesn't make any difference about what the schemes are. It's how hard you practice and how you try to play. And there's literally of things, and I can go and watch games and stuff, and how much does the defense give up big plays? How much do they create turnovers? The defenses, they just do, everybody throws the ball a lot now. I mean, that's a lot of throwing. But if you can't run the football, you can't win. I see teams go out there and they'll throw for 400 yards, but they throw 4 interceptions and they don't play as good and stuff. But I think you can win Super Bowls. I think you can win national championships. If you take a look at like what Alabama has done, I mean, over the last 10, 12, 15 years, they were great on defense. I mean, their defense was awesome. They were excellent on special teams, but they could run the football. They may go out and they may throw for 275 or 300 yards, but when they needed to run the football and eat up the clock and beat the other team, they would do it. And I just think that that's what most of the national good teams do.
Coach, you mentioned toughness and what you guys instilled, and I tell people this: we used to start our practices. Our first 35 minutes would be pursuit drill. People are like, "What?" Yeah. I go, Coach Davis and Coach Wannstedt and Dave, they throw the ball, and we did that for 35 minutes. Yeah. And I'm going to get to a point here. And then the legendary inside drills we would have. We would just murder each other for a couple hours, and we did that all the time. Coach, how do you create that type of toughness today in college and pro when you're limited? There's no 2-a-days any longer. Yep, you don't have the practice schedule that you're allowed to do. That was one of the formulas for us to be successful. How do you build even technique up when you don't have the time?
Well, you know what, Dan, you guys were awesome. I mean, you think about how hard the practices was. There was no time. I mean, we could go out for 2 hours, 3 hours. It didn't make any difference. And go twice in the same day and go like 10 days or 2-a-days and stuff. And the difference today is you got to really push the players out of the practice. I mean, they've got to lift. They got to do a lot of extra things so that they're in good physical shape to be able to go into games and to be able to play. And I just think that, when you watch college football players today, it's really critically important for them to play their hearts out. I mean, they got to really do it, and they get to do a great deal of being in great education and really in great shape before the season starts. And I'm watching Drew's team here, and over the summertime, they're going to summer classes and stuff like that, but they're lifting and they're running and stuff so that they make sure that they're in good shape and stuff to be able to play. But that's the way all the colleges teams have got to be. It's a little bit different,
Coach, for you, when you took over the University of Miami, you had probation. The thing was, I didn't know it would ever come back. And you know what's crazy is that I keep hearing people, and I love Mario Cristobal. I know we love him. I got it. I'm a Miami guy, and I'll always be. But I got to say, man, I mean, how did you bring it back, Coach? How did you bring it back to where, when you left, Coach, you left a dynasty? Yeah. I mean, think about it, Coach. And I know you look, anybody in their right mind, you know how many people give me shit, Coach, about you taking the Cleveland job? I'm leaving for $18 million. I don't care what anybody says. I'm leaving. Whatever you guys think, I'm leaving. It wasn't like he left for like FSU. I mean, we're talking about a job here, but Coach, I keep getting asked the question, will they ever get back? How did you do it?
It was difficult, Dan. I mean, when I took the job, we'd won 2 Super Bowls with the Dallas Cowboys, and I took the job in 1995. And I really, truly, when I took the job, there was no idea that what was going to happen in 1995. And midway in the fall of that season, the first season we went 8-3, but they took to where we couldn't go into bowl games because one of the penalties that they gave to the University of Miami. But here's the thing that absolutely will kill you. If there's 85 scholarship players at that particular time, and they took away 31 scholarships from the University of Miami for the next 3 years. I mean, we had classes. I mean, everybody else is getting 25 and whatever. And obviously, in Miami being a private school, you don't get a lot of walk-ons and stuff. We got a few of them that were pretty good, but we took a class of 12. We took a class of 18 and a class of 13. And in 1997 was the first time of losing season in like 20 years because of what that was. But this is what I'll tell you, and Dan, this is you and all the guys that you played with. The guys that we recruited to come to the University of Miami, they wanted to win. I mean, they had hearts, the Dan Morgans, the Ed Reeds, the Reggie Wayne. I mean, there was a litany of guys that are great, great football players in the NFL, and some have gone into the Hall of Fame. They wanted to win. They wanted to win so bad. And then we went 9-3, and then we went 9-3, and then we went 11-1, and then they went 12-0 and won the national championship. And it was all because of the heart. And you're one of them. The guys that played at that program, they gave their heart to try to win games. I mean, it was, and when Jimmy took that job in 1985, and I was fortunate enough to be able to leave Oklahoma State and come with him, and to be into that deal and to find out what the University of Miami, they love. They want to win. They want to compete. They'll play anybody in America. Let's go play them. Well, when I came back as the head coach, there was people saying, oh, well, you're never going to win any games. Well, we beat UCLA, who was 10-0, and they were undefeated. And the next year, they got a chance to open the season against Ohio State, and everybody said, oh, there's no chance that Miami can beat that. And we won that game again. So we'd beaten UCLA, we'd beaten Ohio State, and you could just see that program was going to climb like it was like when you played there.
Coach, I get asked this, Luther and everybody are asking me to ask you questions like this. And for you, I mean, look, I never, ever, ever begrudged you taking the Cleveland job. I thought it was a natural progression, like Dennis and Jimmy. I just thought it was. But did you have any regrets?
Oh, yeah.
At leaving the University of Miami? Because Dennis, I asked him this question, and he said he regretted going to Seattle and leaving Miami behind because he had so many things that he was working with. Did you have regret?
Yeah, absolutely, Dan. To be honest with you, you know, it's hard to say if you had it to do over again to have stayed there and win 2 or 3 national championships and maybe get an NFL job that would maybe be a little bit better at NFL. And I didn't have any idea that Cleveland was going to offer me the job. Jimmy Johnson called me and he said, "Hey, look, he's been talking to the owners and stuff, and would you talk to them?" And to be honest with you, I actually turned the job down in January. I told him no. We met after we beat Florida in the Sugar Bowl, and I met for probably 5 or 6 hours and came back. And then 2 days later, I said, "Look, you know what? I love it. Thank you very much, but I'm going to stay at the University of Miami." But at the time, and this is a negative thing from my part, is trying to get a contract to be a little bit better as far as the money that was paying, because we were
Miami never paid.
Never paid. And so, you know, you looked at what Florida was being paid, what Florida State was being paid, and everybody else, and it was like, well, this is not very good. And then all of a sudden, you know, then Cleveland called again. I guess they got turned down from other people, but about a week before the national champion signer dip, they called and said, "Here's what we will do. We will give you a 5-year contract, and if you get fired in 1 week, you get all the money for 5 years." And so it's like, how could you, you know, when you're sitting there raising your family and your wife and stuff like that, and you got to go, well, maybe we should do that. And then you go in there and, you know, Carmen Policy was an awesome guy. They had won Super Bowls when he was at the San Francisco 49ers, and I was there with him. And, you know, the first year we went 7-9, winning some games. The next year we make it into the playoffs. But unfortunately, you know, the owner, Mr. Lerner, had passed away and he died. And, you know, if I would have had anything better to do at that time, was maybe go back to Miami or someplace else.
Coach, do you think that the school still harbors in a way? I know there's different people in there. There's not the same guys, because I still find it hard to believe that Mario hasn't reached out to you yet and asked you about winning. He's asked us about it. And I'm like, well, why don't you ask the architects? And so do you think that there's animosity, or do you think that it's just sometimes coaches want to do it their way, or what? Because, man, if I had Jimmy Johnson and Butch Davis and Ed Ogeron and guys like that, and those kind of coaches that I could just speed dial and ask questions to, I would be calling you and Dave and you know, Don Solinger and Jimmy and all them guys. I'd be calling all them guys on the pipelines and shit and all the things you guys did. You think there's animosity towards you?
There may be, Dan, to be honest with you. I mean, obviously leaving and going to Cleveland, that could have been a negative thing with people in the University of Miami. And then the negative thing was going to North Carolina and beat the University of Miami 3 out of 4 years, and then going to FIU and should have never won, and FIU beats the University of Miami. So I don't know if all of those kind of things maybe made a lot of people negative about whatever, but, you know, this is what I can tell you is that I absolutely, the 11 years that I was at the University of Miami, I loved it. I mean, the players that were there, the administrative people at that time, they were awesome. The winning and building a program and stuff, it was a great part of my life and everything. My wife loved it. My son growing up there and stuff. So why I never got a chance to go back, I don't know. That's a question for other people, you know.
I'll tell you something, Coach. People don't realize my GAs were Craig Schiano and Tuberville. These guys were doing bed checks and how great the whole thing was. And I tell people this story all the time. I had a scholarship, and Barry Switzer was on a couple weeks ago. I had a scholarship to go to Oklahoma, but you know them. They have 100,000 guys on scholarship, and they put everybody there, and they never play anybody. And I had one also to LSU.
Yeah.
But I remember because Bernie called, and I said to you, and I picked the phone up, and I go, Butch, I bench 475. I run a 4.8. I do this. He goes like this to me. Tell you what we'll do. I don't have a scholarship right now, but what I'll do is if you come down here and if you show me and you win it, we'll give it to you. Sure enough, they stopped practice. I won my scholarship, and it was one of the truly greatest things in the world to be around you guys and to be the following year I would get to play next with Jerome Brown. And Coach, it was one of the greatest experiences of my life playing for you. I can't. We haven't talked in a long time. And I got to tell you, man, I mean, you saved my life, man. It was one of the.
Thank you. And
I love you to death, man.
Well, I love you too, Dan. And one of the things, and people think about a lot of reasons why do teams become champions, and probably some of the most important things is their character, their heart, how much they want to play. It's not running 4.5 or 4.4 and guys that can bench press like you that would bench press 560. That's a big, important thing. It really, truly is. But how much they truly, honest to God, they want to win. And they love their teammates. I mean, if you think about all the guys you played with and the guys that I had the second time there, to this day, they love each other. They see each other. We went to a game last year, and they had everybody on the 1987 national championship deal on the field. And you would see people, the players are there, and how much they love seeing each other again. And that I think has a lot to do with why teams become championships. It's not necessarily about how much they run and lift and stuff like that. How much do they really truly love their teammates?
Coach, I tell you. I get people asking me, and Penn State posted something about Jerome and I. They called us the second coming of salt and pepper because they, it was Matt Millen and Bruce Clark, and they said that even Paterno was like, you two guys. I mean, I still look at our time with me and Jerome. I'm sorry, Coach, but I think me and him, I think we set the tempo at that place. And what it was, I remember you with a film showing the Cowboy guys what the 3 technique and our old Canes G defense was. Absolutely. I remember this. Well, I'm sitting in a meeting with you, and here's Tutal go like this to me. Hey, you see that thing SILEO's doing? That's what I want to do. You go like this to me. It's not bad. And I go, but Coach, that was just so great playing like that with you and all them guys, especially with Jerome.
Well, it was awesome. And Jerome, people don't know much about how, they know what a great player he was. How much he cheered from the sidelines. I mean, there's some great stories about him in games. And one of the things when I do a presentation, sometimes I talk about the deal. If you remember what he did against West Virginia, and he had been hurt the week before against Cincinnati, and he was like he couldn't hardly walk on his foot, and he took a shot in his big toe and stuff like that. And he came out, and honest to God, I think West Virginia was like number 3. In the country. They were 7-0, and we were like 6-0, and we were like number 5 or 6. And in that game, Dan, and you remember this, he went out there, and in the first quarter, he had like 2 sacks. He forced a fumble, had 2 or 3 tackles behind the line of scrimmage and stuff. And we were ahead 28-0. Yes. And he's running by on the sidelines. He takes his helmet off and he throws it to me. And he says, "I'll see you on the bus later on." And we won 56-0 or something like that. But that's Jerome Brown.
Coach, I'll tell you something, man. I remember I was so pissed off in that game because the amount of work that we had done for that game, it was like the first quarter, we're up 28-0. You start yanking us out. I'm like, wait a minute. There's like 8 hours of practice and mid-side drill. Well, you're going to take me out and put Ernie Perry? Oh, no. Yeah. Oh, man, I hated that. But, yeah, man, no, that was – and, Coach, all those coaches that used to show up and watch us practice and play like that too, man. I mean, I tell people, you'll never see anything like that again. And how about, I even asked Ed Ogeron when he was the head coach at LSU this question. I go, do you think those Alabama teams could beat our Miami teams back in the 80s? He goes, no way. Yeah. No way. We were just too – how'd you get all those guys in there like that, Coach?
Yeah, the recruiting, I think when you go out to get guys to come to a program, they want to be someplace that the program is going to really help them, one, get a great education, and also to get into the NFL and to win games. And every guy, whether it's you and everybody else that you played with and all the decades after that, that's the kind of things that they really, wanted to try to do, is they wanted to be in a great program. And you just go through and you look at all those guys. I mean, you played with Danny Stubbs and Greg Mork and all those defensive line guys and, Winston Moss and all the guys. I mean, there were some great players. But and this is the thing that you just want to sell people about. They really cared about each other. Yep. I mean, they love the guys on their team, and they would give their soul away to try to win games and to make their teams better. Absolutely.
Still, Coach, I want to show you something here. By the way, folks, those are all the game balls back there. I got 5 of them that Jimmy and Butch gave me. Florida, Florida State, Pitt. No, wait, no Pitt, because that's the only time I told Dave. I tell the story on Dave. So get this, folks. We beat Pitt like 38-6. I have a pretty good game. I get hurt in that game. But this is after the game. We're sitting there, Jerome's sitting next to me, and all of a sudden Dave Wannstedt comes in, and we have all the Gatorade cups on a table here. Dave comes walking in, and he flips that up, and he goes, you gave up 200 yards to Iron. Iron is a pretty good ball player too, man. You gave up this. I looked at Jerome and I go, we did win 38-3, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Now there was a high resolution of where you wanted to be, you know?
Hey, absolutely. Yep. But I remember nobody wanted to get off the bus in the rain and the cold in Pittsburgh. That's what it was.
That's the truth.
But Coach, I got this. I want to show it to you. It's the very first training camp that you guys went to and I went to in Thousand Oaks. And I'm wondering for you, when you made that transition from Miami to go to the pros, how daunting was that? All of a sudden, you're in the room, and I'm thinking you had to tell Randy, this ain't going to be for older dudes. Yeah. So if you're not ready to play, which he ended up retiring, I remember in minicamp, because he was out there with us a little bit in minicamp, and a lot of the guys left. I thought my Miami team could have beat that team that year. That's how bad they were. How daunting of a challenge was that for you when you rolled into Thousand Oaks, when you had to take on that job?
Danny, it's a great question to ask that, because obviously, I mean, Jimmy did a great job because he took his staff from the University of Miami to that, kept some of the staff that was already on the Cowboys that had been in the NFL, but a high percentage, me and Dave Wannstedt, Dave Campo, and a lot of the guys, Joe Brodsky, the running back coach, nobody had coached the NFL.
Coach Axe.
Yeah, and Hubbard Alexander, I mean, all of those things. And this is one of the things, I promise you, Dan, that really helped me. Ed Too Tall Jones was I was 37 years old, and I think he was either 38 or 39, and he was still playing. And he had been in the league for like 16 years or whatever. And I will swear to God that he helped me, that after we'd meet at nighttime and put into installation what we're going to do in practice. And then I would keep him after practice. And I just picked his brain. And I said, what should we do with defensive line guys in the National Football League and yourself? And because he played they'd won 3 Super Bowls, and he was, and honest to God, he really truly helped me make that transition from college into the NFL, about what do you do to be with the guys that you're going to coach. And he really, truly helped me, and I'm grateful for that. And then obviously, as we started adding more players and more guys that could actually play in the draft and stuff, but, he was awesome. And I was very grateful, because that first year, you remember this with Jimmy, I mean, we were 1-15.
Yeah,
we just like playing for national championships like 3 or 4 years, and now all of a sudden we're 1-15. It's like, oh Lord, they're going to try to fire all of us, Hey,
I remember telling Troy Aikman this, Coach. I remember, we went to a steakhouse. Crawford Kerr, me, him, and Daryl Johnson, and you guys had drafted Steve Walsh, and I love Steve Walsh. No, not gonna say anything negative about him. Love him to death. He's a brother, okay. And I remember Aikman going, "Oh, he drafted your boy." I go, "Hey, hang on here. You think Jimmy Johnson gives a shit whether he's your boy or not?" Let me tell you about these coaches here, man. These guys only care about one thing. That's winning. They don't care about nothing else, about boys. They love us, but I'm telling you, it was more about winning. And I think I told Troy this. I said, Troy, you're the toughest coach, or you're the toughest player Jimmy Johnson's ever had. And he goes, what do you mean? I go, well, you turned him down at Oklahoma State. You turned him down when you were going to transfer from Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Okay. And then when you got there, the old staff was really the guy to put you in place. And he goes, I never thought of that. And so Troy and all that, he thought too. He goes, yeah, well, today, him and Jimmy Johnson are as close as you can ever imagine. Coach, I got to tell you one last story. There's 2 stories here that I want to tell you before we go. So I tell people this all the time. My wife, my girlfriend, who's now my wife, we saw Butch Davis in a grocery store. This is the last time I saw Butch. And folks, you got to remember something. Dan SILEO could only be coached by the Jimmy Johnson, Butch Davis staff because I'm a lunatic. And so Butch is in there. He turns and looks at me, and he makes a beeline for me. I thought we were going to – he goes, you talked yourself off this goddamn team. You did it. You should have been on this thing. And I'm going like, my girlfriend's looking at me, and she goes, you talked yourself. Dude, seriously, you got hurt. You should have stayed hurt. Everything would have been great. And I went, and my girlfriend goes like this, you love that guy? I go, to tears. and I, Coach, that's the last time I saw you was in that grocery store, but you read me the riot act going, keep your mouth shut, kid. You know that because hey, I remember you going like this. God dang it, Dan. Keep your mouth shut. I'm trying to help you in here. This was team, but God, those team meetings were so fun. And Coach, I could go on with you forever. You saved my life, man. I just love playing with you, and I really did. I don't know what else.
Here's the main thing, Dan, and I swear to God, this is the truth. My life is because of my wife, Tammy, okay, my son, Drew, and the kids that I coached for 45 years. You love them. I mean, the things that you help them get in educations, their careers, they get into the NFL when the NFL's out of it. How do they get jobs and stuff like that? And as a real legitimate coach, it's really about how do you help your kids? And it's still this day. I mean, it's like, how do you help them for the rest of your life and the rest of their lives?
How's Tammy's health?
She's doing good. She's doing good. Yep. She's got a little bit of an issue with an uncle that's not feeling good, and he's up in Tampa and everything. So we'll probably be going up. We went on the weekend, and he's a great guy, and he helped raise her, and so it's very important. You know, as you well know, I mean, family is so important, and so we say a quick prayer for her to make sure that he's okay.
What kind of coach is this kid, Drew, of yours?
Yeah, he's good. He's a wide receiver for a while, and then he coached the tight ends, and now he's coaching the quarterbacks and stuff. And they made it at St. Thomas University, so that you know, they've only started 5 years ago. And Drew started here. He was with me at FIU, and he was in the top recruiters at FIU and stuff. But since the first year they were here, they had a good winning season. They were 9-2, but they didn't make the playoffs. Last year, they made it into the national championship playoffs. They won the first game, and then they lost the second game, and the team that they lost to won the national championship. And so they're climbing the ladder. I mean, it's a lot like what we did, you know, at Dallas and Miami and all the places. You build it just a little bit better. And Drew's, I mean, he's he's an unbelievably great coach, and cheering for him to keep climbing the ladder.
Well, Coach, thank you so much. It's been great to catch up with you. I mean, you, Dave, Tony Weiss, Jimmy, of course. I mean, Jimmy never says no to me. I mean, even though I break his stone, I still break his stones still to this day. I mean, you know me, Coach. Coach, really, I haven't changed all that much. No, you know, I really haven't. But you know, I'm going on 60, but you know, I'm probably going on still 22. So I mean,
well, you're awesome.
Thank you so much for all you did for me, Coach.
Well, I love you, and it's great to talk to you. And next time we get a chance, hopefully it's sooner.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. You, Coach, you tell Drew and Tammy I said hi, and thank you so much, Coach.
You got it, buddy.
You bet. The great Butch Davis. Love the man so much. Absolutely do. It was one of the greatest times of my entire life being down there at the University of Miami. All right, guys, we're going to take a timeout. Do me a favor. Please hit the like button. Xander's going to join us in the next segment. We'll reset Eagles and coming up against the New England Patriots. That'll be on Thursday. Hit the like button. Keep it here, National Football Show.
Michael Vick at BetUS.com. Catch an incredible 125% sign-up bonus on your first 3 deposits, plus 10% gambler's insurance. BetUS, my online sportsbook and casino.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.